Hello, this is Photography Gamer. Welcome back to the channel. In today's episode of the VP Guide, I'll be taking a look at the photo mode in Hell Is Us on the Xbox Series X. Okay, so I'll break down the basic settings first, then I'll get into the weeds with a bit of more of the advanced stuff. Right, basic settings. To enter the photo mode, you need to press up on the D-pad and the pause button simultaneously. The left and right analog sticks allow you to move and tilt the camera within the photo mode to help you with composition. If you press the X button, that will hide the user interface, which is great if you just want to see the photo without any of the iconography on the screen. If you press the share button, that will take a screenshot, and this screenshot will be viewable in your Xbox browser. The Y button, if you tap it, it resets the current setting you're working on. Now, if you hold the Y button, that will reset the entire image. And if you press the B button, that will close the photo mode and take you back into the gameplay. So those are the basic settings. Now, the advanced settings. Firstly, with the advanced settings, if you want to switch between the tabs, you can press the left and right bumper buttons to do so. So I'm going to go through each tab individually. The first tab is camera. Here we've got field of view and roll. Field of view is essentially like a sort of a zooming function where you can change how much of the image is in. Like if you want to go into a tight zoom and do it incrementally, you can use the field of view, or you can come all the way out. Just bear in mind, if you come all the way out, sometimes you'll get barrel distortion, like a curvature on the edge. Sometimes it shows, sometimes it's not so much of an issue. Then you've got roll. Roll essentially is tilting the camera. So tilting, I would say, works well if you're trying to do a photograph with motion or to create some kind of horror or surrealistic aspect. Surrealistic is very relevant to this game, so the roll is something you might want to consider using. The next tab is display. So here we have brightness. Brightness is pretty straightforward. Obviously, it brightens all aspects of the image up or down. Again, this is something you'll use once you've composed your image. Next, we have temperature. Temperature, one end of the temperature is more of an orange glow. One end of it is a blue glow. So again, if you want to make color toning adjustments to an image, you can do so here. Tinting is very much the same, except instead of like warm and cold, it's purple one end, green the other. So you can adjust the temperature and the tinting together if you want to sort of play around with how the color scheme is working. Then you have display grid. This grid, what is the point in having a grid? Well, a grid is a good way for you to measure the distances between characters or measure placement. Usually I use it to get the eye line 2/3 up, or if I want to place two characters or a character in one side and something else on the other, you can use that grid for measurement. And then finally on display, we've got hide character. Sometimes you don't want your character in the shot. Sometimes you just want to do a landscape or you want to take a picture of NPCs. Hiding your character is a good way to do that. The next tab is filter. So the first part of it is filter. So this is the type of filter. There's a few variations. So once you've selected the filter you want, you can then go down to intensity. Intensity is 0 to 100, 100 being full, 0 being none. So obviously with a filter, you probably don't want 100% of it. You want to adjust the intensity until you've got the nice balance in terms of what additional color you're adding to it. Like for example, if you want a slightly washed out color palette, you can put a black and white filter on and then 50% it. And then it will be 50% black and white, so it will just strip half the color out. Then we've got rendering. This adds different effects. Now, whether you use these or not is up to you. Some of them look decent, some of them are a little bit specific. So again, these add effects to your image. Use them as you see fit. And then finally, we've got character rotation. You've got defaults, which is just as the image was paused, or you've got camera. Camera will mean that the character's rotation will be identify where your camera is and it will rotate towards your camera. And I also think it tracks. If you move the camera while it's on the camera setting, it should track its body movement, I think. Off the top of my head, I can't remember, but try that out. Next tab, color grading. So color grading, we've got 5 options here. So like basically you've got saturation, contrast and gamma, and then For all three of those settings, you've got intensity, red, green and blue. So intensity is very much like filters. Do you want 0 intensity or 100 or somewhere in between? And then the red, green and blue is related to red, green and blue within the color scheme. So when you're dealing with the overall color of the image, if you want to take all of the reds out, go to saturation, strip the red out. If you want to take like red out of the gamma, which is a lot of the brighter areas, bang, do that. And contrast, again, do you want color within the contrast, or do you want the contrast to be more color specific? It's almost a bit like split toning an image on Instagram. You know, it's not an exact science. Play around with it, but you've got 3 settings with 4 options for each, so there's a lot of capacity here for nice color grading. Next tab is depth of field. So you've got autofocus on or off. On is obviously very helpful because it focuses on your character. Now if you turn it off, you have to manually adjust the focus. So then you'd have to choose the focus distance. The focus distance is obviously find the distance where whatever it is you're focusing on in the image, get the distance to match that. Aperture goes from 1 to 32 and it's measured in f-stops. Basically the higher the number, the more that is going to be in focus in your image. The lower the number, the less. And then sensor width is another one that dictates how much of that is blurry, how much is not blurry, and how intense that blur is going to be. Play around with that with aperture and you can create some nice effects. Next tab is screen effects. So we've got chromatic aberration and aberration offset. Chromatic aberration is basically like a sort of a vignette around the border that creates almost like a sort of faux 3D effect that is aimed to sort of to be distortive, creates coloured borders around edges that are slightly offset, that are very disorientating. So yeah, for images that have a sort of an unusual feel. Sharpness obviously increases a bit of clarity. You know, some of the bits are quite dark in this game. You might need to add some sharpness, and you can also use the bit film grain and sharpness. If you want to add clarity, texture, a bit of a grit to it, you can use those 2 tabs. And then you've got a regular vignette. A vignette is a shadowy border around the image, very much like chromatic aberration, but instead of like a sort of faux 3D effect, it is just a dark shadowy border around the image, and then you can adjust it as you see fit. Next tab is frames. So we've got type of frames. You can have borders, you can have a Polaroid type effect, widescreen, whatever suits your image. Then you can adjust the size of it. That's very helpful because you might want to tweak it slightly. And then you have red, green and blue, so you can change the color of that border. You can have it white, you can have it black, you can have it a different color. It's completely up to you. One thing I would say, I think you should choose the frame before you actually do the photograph, because once you've selected a frame, you will then have to recompose it. So put your frame on first and then do your picture, and then you can maybe make adjustments if necessary. The last tab is logo. So we have a light and a dark logo option at the top. Then we can adjust that logo. We can make it bigger or smaller. We can change the angle of it. We can change the horizontal alignment, and we can change the vertical alignment. So yeah, if you want to put a logo on, if you want to create like a faux movie poster or some sort of advertisement type image for the game, you can use a logo here. Okay, so that is the photo mode in Hell Is Us. Overall, I'd say it's a pretty good mode. Yes, maybe it does lack craning options, which are usually applied to the triggers. They raise and lower the camera. You don't have that, so you have to use a creative method of the analog sticks to raise and lower the camera. That's slightly annoying, but I'd say overall it's very good. I mean, for reference, here's some photos that I've taken in the game. Obviously, it's a very dark game. It's harrowing in terms of topic, but if you like capturing dark and moody stuff, or sort of reportage, almost like photojournalistic stuff, it's a great game for those type of aspects. Now, if you have any questions about this video, the photo mode, or you're just not sure about some of the detail that I went into, please comment and I will help if I can. But for now, that's another episode of the VP Guide. I hope you found it helpful. This is Photography Gamer signing off. See you next time. Cheers.